它会在你的想法中逗留，会和生灵一起行动。
All right, so are you ready to dive deep? Today, we're tackling rebirth.
Rebirth.
Well, not literally, of course, but as a total personal transformation.
Okay, I see. Like hitting reset.
Exactly. And we've got these two excerpts, both about this Pastor Zhang Mingi's.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he had this really fascinating life, and his teachings are all about this idea of starting fresh.
I mean, who doesn't love a fresh start?
Right. It's like this universal thing. Whether you're spiritual or not, everyone wants that chance to just hit the reset button sometimes, you know?
Absolutely. Like a clean slate.
Yeah. And his story, even though it's rooted in faith, I think it speaks to everyone who feels stuck or wants to break free from limitations. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. Like it's that yearning for change we all feel sometimes.
Exactly. It's like a universal theme.
It really is, yeah. It pops up everywhere when you start looking for it.
So let's get into Pastor Zhang's story. He starts as this struggling farmer in rural. I mean, can you imagine just how hard it must have been to break free from that?
It's incredible, right?
Yeah, it must have taken so much willpower.
Willpower and something more. He talks about this huge internal shift, almost like he felt called to this new life, you know?
It wasn't just changing jobs. It was like his whole identity transformed.
Totally. And he literally tore down his old home to build a new one. It's like this powerful visual for leaving the past behind.
Oh, that's such a striking image. Dismantling his old life. And it's interesting because the excerpts actually lay out steps for this kind of rebirth process, like a how-to guide.
That guide, that's cool.
Yeah. And the first step is about recognizing our limitations, which is where this idea of old wineskins comes in. Have you ever heard that analogy?
Old wineskins.
Not really. Okay, so imagine this. You can't pour new wine into old, brittle wineskins, right? They'll just burst.
They can't expand.
Exactly. And it's the same with us. If we cling to these outdated beliefs, habits, even relationships...
They can't hold the new stuff.
Right. They prevent us from embracing new things.
It makes sense. Like, we need to create space first.
Yes. So thinking about your own life, is there anything you're holding on to that might be an old wineskin?
That's a good question. It could be anything.
Anything. A job, a way of thinking, even a fear that's holding you back.
Yeah, fear is a big one for a lot of people.
It is. And honestly, just recognizing those limitations can be hard. It's like taking inventory of all your baggage.
Mental and emotional baggage.
Exactly. But once you see those old wineskins, then you can embrace the new, right? The excerpts talk about being open to new things, different perspectives.
Stepping outside your comfort zone.
Yes. And becoming a beginner again, like you're ready to learn new things.
So it's about being adaptable. I think there's a term for this in psychology. Cognitive flexibility, yeah.
Cognitive flexibility, I like that.
Yeah, it's basically being able to unlearn old stuff and integrate new information. Like Pastor Zhang switching from farming to studying scriptures.
Yeah.
Huge change.
It's amazing. And it reminds me that the excerpts also emphasize the importance of actually doing something. Like, Pastor Zhang didn't just think about changing, he took action.
It's walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Yes. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, writer.
I love that saying. So true.
So true. And then the fourth step, this might be more for some people than others, is connecting with a higher power.
Yeah, that can be tricky depending on your beliefs.
It's definitely rooted in a specific religious context, but I'm curious, how do you see that applying more broadly?
You know, even if someone isn't religious, it's about finding that source of strength, that deeper meaning.
It's like tapping into something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. Like for some, it's nature, community, art, even a moral code they live by.
So it's not necessarily about a specific God, but about that feeling of connection and purpose.
Right. It's funny because now even neuroscience is showing how those connections affect our brains.
Really? Tell me more.
Like meditation, for instance. It can literally rewire your brain, making you more resilient.
Wow, so there's a biological basis for that strength we get from connecting with something bigger. That's fascinating.
It is, and it just shows you, even if that fourth step seems religious at first,
it's got this broader meaning.
Exactly. It speaks to this human need for meaning, for connection, beyond just ourselves.
I love that. And I think it's super important to remember that rebirth isn't like a one-time event, you know?
It's not like you flip a switch and boom, new person.
Haha, no, it's a process, right?
Absolutely. It's this constant cycle, recognizing limitations, Embracing the new, taking action, and finding that strength to keep going.
It's a journey, and I think we should dig into how all of this applies to everyday life. Because it's one thing to hear about a farmer's transformation, but what about dealing with a frustrating job or trying to break a bad habit? We'll explore that when we come back.
Can't wait. I think our listener will find this next part really helpful.
All right, so we've talked about these rebirth principles, but how do we actually apply them to our own lives? It's one thing to hear about a farmer changing everything, but what about us?
Yeah, like, how does this help me with my annoying job? Or breaking a bad habit?
Exactly. I mean, it's a cool concept, but can we make it practical?
Oh, absolutely. That's the cool part. It works for so many situations.
Okay, good. So walk me through it.
All right, think about those times you feel stuck. Like nothing's changing, you're unhappy.
Oh, yeah, been there.
Right. And then ask yourself, what needs to change? Like, what are those old wineskins holding me back? And what new stuff am I ready for?
So, like, I'm taking inventory, but instead of clothes, it's my beliefs, habits, even relationships.
You got it. It's like a mental and emotional spring cleaning.
Spring cleaning, I like that. But it can be overwhelming, right? Where do you even start?
You don't have to do it all at once. Remember, rebirth is a process. Start small. Pick one area you want to change.
Okay. Keep it manageable.
Right. Maybe it's fitness, learning something new, even changing how you see a problem at work.
Makes sense. Small steps. But what about that connecting to something bigger thing? Especially if you're not religious. How does that fit in daily life?
It's about finding your anchor. That thing that grounds you, gives you perspective when things get tough.
An anchor, I like that.
Yeah. It can be nature, music, volunteering, even mindfulness.
So it's personal, whatever gives you that sense of purpose.
Exactly. And it's interesting, there's this guy, Viktor Frankl. He wrote about finding meaning even in suffering.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
His point was, even in the worst situations, we can choose our attitude, find purpose.
Powerful stuff. So this anchor, it's about more than just changing what we do. It's changing how we think.
You got it. Shifting your mindset, how you see yourself and the world.
Because that's what allows real change to happen.
Exactly. It's recognizing we have the power to choose how we react. We can create a life that matches our values.
I love that. So it's not about becoming Pastor Zhang, it's about becoming the best version of ourselves.
That's the goal. And, Pastor Zhang's story is inspiring, but is this rebirth only for these huge life changes?
Yeah, good point. What about everyday stuff, like when I'm just frustrated or hit a setback?
Rebirth is for every moment. It's not just for saints and heroes. It's for all of us.
So even small stuff can be a chance for growth.
Yep. Every challenge is a chance to learn instead of getting stuck in frustration.
Ask, what can I learn from this?
Right. How can I practice being resilient? And remember that cognitive flexibility.
So rebirth can also just be changing how we look at things.
Sometimes, yeah. Finding a new angle, choosing a better way to react.
Like that saying, change your thoughts, change your world.
Exactly. Though it's not always easy, we're creatures of habit.
Oh yeah, change is hard. It can even be scary.
Totally. Our brains like what's familiar. But that's where courage comes in.
We gotta push through that fear.
You got it. Acknowledge the fear, but move forward anyway. Trust yourself to handle the unknown.
That's huge. We focus so much on the outward changes, but the real shift is inside.
Totally. In our minds and hearts. It's changing what we believe about ourselves, what we think is possible.
And that's what makes lasting change happen.
You said it. It's about being kind to yourself, being vulnerable, trusting the process even when it's messy.
Now, one thing I noticed, Pastor Zheng had his community supporting him. How important is that in our own rebirths?
So important. We're social beings. We need that support network.
It makes things easier, right? To have people to share with.
Totally. Friends, family, mentors, even online groups. Finding those safe spaces where you can be yourself.
So it's not just ME changing, it's recognizing that we need each other.
Yes. And then there's this ripple effect. When we embrace change, it inspires others to do the same.
Like we're setting an example.
Totally. We create a more compassionate world, one person at a time.
That's beautiful. But we gotta be real, rebirth isn't always smooth sailing. There'll be setbacks.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's where resilience comes in.
Bouncing back from those tough moments.
Exactly. Setbacks are normal. It's not about avoiding them. It's about learning how to handle them.
So we don't see setbacks as failures. We see them as
learning opportunities. Ask yourself, what did this teach me? How can I use this to grow stronger?
I like that. And we don't have to go it alone. We can lean on our support system.
Always. Ask for help. Remember, you've overcome challenges before. you can do it again.
It's a reminder that we're stronger than we think.
Yes. And that's really what rebirth is all about, isn't it?
Tapping into our strength, embracing our potential,
Creating a life that truly reflects who we are.
a life that's even better than before.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter how old you are, your background, where you're at right now.
Anyone can do this.
Anyone. So as we move into the last part of our deep dive, I want to explore courage a bit more.
Because that's what keeps us going on this journey.
100%. Courage is what lets us step outside our comfort zones, embrace the unknown.
It really is. Like, we're standing at this edge, looking out at this huge unknown territory. And it takes courage to take that first step.
Right. And it's not like you have to be totally fearless or anything.
Yeah, I get that. It's more like feeling the fear, but doing it anyway.
Exactly. Because that's usually where the growth is, on the other side of that fear.
Outside that comfort zone. So we don't want to get rid of fear completely. We just have to change how we see it.
Yeah, for sure. Think of it like this. Fear is usually a sign you're about to do something in new W. Something that could really change things for you.
Oh, I like that. So instead of fear being the enemy, it's more like a signpost pointing us in the right direction.
I love that, a signpost. And the more we actually are courageous, the more we step outside that comfort zone.
The better we get at it.
Exactly. You handle the unknown better each time.
Like working a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Perfect analogy. And that courage, it doesn't just stay in one area of your life either.
Oh, that's interesting. What do you mean?
It kind of spills over. You're more likely to take risks, go after things you're passionate about.
Your true self, basically.
Yes, it's like this amazing cycle. Each time you're brave, it makes you even braver for the next time.
A positive feedback loop. I love that.
Yeah.
And this whole rebirth thing, it's not just about us changing individually, right?
Right. There's a bigger picture, too.
It can impact others.
Exactly. When we embrace our OWN changes, we show other people it's possible.
We're like a living example.
Yes. We show them change is possible, growth is attainable, and that they can create a life they love.
And that can spread, right? It's like this ripple effect.
Totally. One person's transformation can inspire so many others. It creates this wave of positive change.
That's so cool. So our personal rebirth, it's almost like an act of service.
That's a great way to put it. We make the world a better, more supportive place just by doing our own work.
I love that. But we should also be honest, rebirth isn't always easy or straightforward. There will be times when things are hard.
Oh, absolutely. It's not a straight line to get where you want to be.
So how do we deal with those tough moments?
That's where resilience is key. Realizing that those setbacks, they're just part of the process.
They're going to happen. It's not about avoiding them.
Right. It's about learning how to handle them when they do happen.
So we change our thinking. Instead of seeing a setback as a failure,
We see it as a chance to learn, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this experience?
and again, we've got our support system to help us through it.
Always. Talk to people, ask for advice, and remember, you've made it through tough times before. You've got this.
It's all about remembering how strong we actually are.
Yes. And that's the heart of rebirth,
It's about remembering our potential and having the courage to go after it.
Creating a life that reflects who we truly are at our core.
It's about realizing we do have the power to change, to grow.
And to make our future even better than our past. It's such a powerful idea.
And anyone can do it, no matter where they're starting from.
Exactly. It's a journey that's available to all of us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with a question. What are you ready to let go of?
What old wineskins are you holding on to that might be blocking something amazing from entering your life?
That's a powerful question, because letting go is often the first step.
It creates the space for that rebirth magic to happen. And remember,
You don't have to do it alone.
exactly. Reach out, find your support, and trust in your own ability to transform. And until next time,
Keep diving deep.
and keep embracing all the possibilities of rebirth.
Happy evolving, everyone.
最后的神和神灵不会忘记自己的百姓，也不会忘记自己心爱的人，他会给予帮助并懂得对于原本艰辛不易的大希望漠不关心。